How excited are the Bengals? Have seen some video of Joe Burrow. He looks like he's moving. He looks like he's pretty good. How excited are the Bengals with where Joe Burrow is at right now?
Yeah, Dave, it is a great sight to see Joe Burrow finally back on a football field. It kind of took the social media world by storm, his very first OTA practice that he returned for. And you know what? He looks pretty darn impressive out there. We all know his kind of mentality and the grit, the demeanor that Joe Burrow brings on and off the field. But to actually see him out there going through drills, connecting with receivers, it's been a sight. And not only, is he looking strong, but he is looking as comfortable as ever. They are being a little cautious with him. They've kind of had him all by himself, kind of on an island. They have had no other players in the backfield with him just to take that extra step to make sure aren't any incidental kind of contact with Burrow, because he isn't 100% fully back yet. He's still on that rehab path, but he is on pace to start week one, barring any unfortunate setbacks that we hopefully do not see here for the rest of OTAs and then rolling into training camp. But my goodness, has it been a sight to see. They've been working a lot this last week on, deep balls and longer routes with some of the receivers. And in just talking to, some of the receivers and even tight end CJ Uzama, every single guy has mentioned how Joe Burrow has had an extra kind of zip to his passes this spring. And, I know Joe Burrow worked on his mechanics a little bit this offseason, kind of tweaking a few things, and it's really been noticed. Our tight end CJ Uzama was messing around, and he was saying that, he had to catch passes with gloves on, because when he didn't have his gloves on, it was almost stinging his hands a little too bit. So definitely like to see that out of Burrow, and all signs are really pointing in the right direction with him so far, Dave.
He seems like the type of guy that energizes a team. Fair to say, and have you seen that? Just, it's like the leader is back, that kind of deal.
Oh, absolutely. He's just a natural born leader. And you even notice that his rookie year, when he first took the field, he just had that kind of command of respect, and just the way he carries himself and his presence. He is the leader of this offense and of this team. And, he earned that captain's patch last season for a reason. So when you have a guy like him back out at practice, I have to believe that's one of the reasons that the Bengals had 100% participation through OTAs, because you don't want to be that one guy on the team who's not going to show up and work hard. And you have kind of Joe Burrow, leading the charge and making sure that, every single guy in that locker room has their head on straight and, working towards that one common goal.
Marisa, what about the rookies? The names were really familiar to me. I think there's some to be excited about. What rookies do the Bengals appear to really like that they have brought in to the franchise and have now in OTAs?
Yeah, they have a great rookie class who are coming in with some pretty high expectations. Not only do you draft Jamar Chase 5th overall, but, they're expecting him to come in, contribute, start week one. And, there's pretty high standards and expectations for a guy like Jamar Chase, not only having, that chemistry and connection and comfortability already with Joe Burrow from their time together down at LSU. And, already this spring, he's been looking pretty good. And even veterans like Tyler Boyd have commented that, Chase has come in and he's already a pro. He's already doing the right things, doing what he's supposed to do, staying later after practice. So Chase has been pretty impressive so far this spring. And then you also look at who they drafted in the second round in Jackson Carman, because, he's coming in playing tackle at Clemson, most likely going to be coming in and competing for that right guard position, at least for this season. And so while you're not putting too much pressure on, the young kid right away, because he is a Cincinnati local, Cincinnati native. So, you do have that little extra kind of, pressure just automatically with him being a local kid. But, they're really expecting him to eventually, whether it's week one or week 3 or 4, take over a starting position on that offensive line. So a lot to be said about Jackson Carman. And then, retooling and kind of rebolstering that defensive line was a true priority this offseason for the Bengals. And they really addressed that in the draft with taking Joseph Osai, Tyler Shelvin, and Cam Sample. And all three of those guys are expected to really earn and compete for playing time early in that rotation on the defensive line, especially when you look at Osai coming off of the edge, because right now that is kind of an area that they could really improve upon when you get past Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard and looking at the rest of that depth on the edge. And then I have to mention Evan McPherson, the only kicker drafted in this year's class. They fully expect him to, take over that starting position. It's going to be a battle of him and Austin Seibert early on, but you draft a kicker, you expect him to be your starter week one. And so I know they're really excited about just the potential of Evan McPherson. And he had an opportunity to work with former Bengal Shane Graham down at Florida. So you already have that connection there too. And so it's not every day that you're getting really excited about specialists down here in Cincinnati, but Evan McPherson has certainly been a fan favorite so far this offseason.
You mentioned Jackson Carman, and that is definitely a local guy, Fairfield High School down in that area. Remember him well. Was a monster of a tackle in high school. Have the Bengals, do they feel pretty good about how they've addressed the offensive line? That was obviously something they wanted to make sure that they did to take care of Joe Burrow because he looked so good as a rookie.
Absolutely. It was an area that they had to address. And, this team does feel comfortable about the steps that they've taken this offseason. Sometimes national media doesn't quite see, that same, or doesn't feel like they're on that same page. But when you look in just, automatically bringing in Frank Pollock to take over that position group, I mean, it's just impressive right from the start. He's already made a huge impression on a lot of these players, and even guys not in his room like Joe Mixon backing Frank Pollock. He's made a lot of strides already within the guys that are in that group. And, it's only been a few years removed. Frank Pollock was here when they drafted Billy Price. And, I look at this as a make or break year for Billy Price. He has a lot to go out there and prove as he's going to be competing, probably for that left guard, could potentially be starting at center if Trey Hopkins isn't back fully recovered from his torn ACL injury. So, you have the guy that drafted Billy Price back working with him. So really eager to see what the two of those guys can do together and how Pollock can, get Price back to where he was when he left Ohio State. But, the biggest acquisition for the Bengals on the offensive line was bringing in Riley Reif, have him starting at right tackle from the Vikings. I mean, he already just provides a huge upside and that really veteran presence that they've kind of been missing throughout the last few years. So Riley Reif is going to be just, that locked in on the right side. And then they really hope to have Jonah Williams back fully healthy, then to take over at left tackle. And in just 10 games last season that he played, he was the highest graded Bengals offensive lineman per Pro Football Focus, graded over a 75 in the pass blocking game. And so when you're able to solidify those two tackle spots, a lot else kind of helps fall into place. And so the key for Jonah Williams, I mean, missed his entire rookie season and then has only had 10 NFL games, is to stay healthy. And so you're eager to see what kind of strides then he is going to take now in his third season in the league. And then, you have Trey Hopkins kind of bolstered, locked in at that center position, has played very well when he's been in. And so then kind of the conversation comes down to who's going to be starting at left guard. And currently you expect it to be a battle between Quinton Spain, Xavier Su'a-Filo, Michael Jordan, and Billy Price. And so when you have that many guys competing, for that final offensive line spot, it's a good thing to have in that room because it's only going to make each one of those guys better. And it'll be really intriguing to see how that plays out once training camp does roll around, to see who out of that group kind of removes himself from the pack and kind of takes over that left guard spot because we do expect Jackson Carman, whether it's, like I mentioned earlier, week one or a couple weeks in, to kind of solidify and take over at right guard.